Everyone, thank you very, very much for being with us today as we are excited to talk about the largest seizure of fentanyl in the history of the Sheriff's Office. And this is all about remarkable work into the two largest drug cartels in Mexico. But before I do that, let me introduce to you, first and foremost, our prosecutor, Brian Haas, the state attorney for the 10th Judicial Circuit, and in my estimation, the finest prosecutor, not only in the state of Florida, but anywhere in the United States. He does the right thing. He's going to speak to us in a little while. We also have Austin Leal from Auburndale Police Department with us today, Terry Story with us, Mark Brutnell from FDLE, and he's going to also speak today. We have Chris Nelson, Brandon Shealy, who is a supervisor. We have Javier Lopez from Border Patrol with us, Michael Garland from HSI, Jim Gill from U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Why do I list them? Because when you do investigations of this magnitude, no single agency can successfully do them. It takes us all working together. And let me underscore that there's no light between any of us. We're shoulder to shoulder to protect the people of the United States from this evil, evil drug, fentanyl. And I want to highlight before I start giving you the details, and I'm going to give you a 30,000-foot deep view of this, because obviously there will be other investigations into these cartels. But I want to give you an example. Between 2018 and 2023, 340,000 people died of fentanyl overdose deaths in the United States. Did you hear what I said? I didn't stutter. You can't count that high on your fingers and toes. 340,000 people in the United States died of fentanyl overdose between 2018 and 2023. What's important to recognize that? Why it's important to recognize that is simply this. Do you see anyone in the United States up in arms about that? Anyone? Do you see anyone saying, we've got a crisis on our hands? Do you see anyone saying, we have an epidemic on our hands? Do you see it leading the evening news? And the answer to all of that is no, no, no. Well, in fact, we do have a crisis when 340,000 people have died in 5 years in the United States of America from this overdose of fentanyl. So I ask you this, what would we be doing if 340,000 people died from the food served in the cafeterias at elementary schools in that period of time? How would we react? How would we react if 340,000 people died in county jails from us feeding bad food? There would be storms. There would be people fired and unelected. There would be congressional investigations. Every state would be doing investigations. But yet we pretty much sat silent while 340,000 people in the United States died from fentanyl overdose. And where does the fentanyl come from? It's coming across our southern border. Now, the good news is, since the border's been shut down, we've seen some drop in that. Since these massive investigations have occurred, we've seen a drop in that. But I want to get back to where I started. And where I started was simply this. We all work together to protect people and keep people alive and safe. So let me introduce you to the Sinaloa Cartel and the Jalisco Cartel. The Sinaloa cartel has been weakened some with the arrest of its leadership. They're actually working together some with the Jalisco cartel, which is the two largest drug trafficking organizations in Mexico. They call it transnational criminal enterprises. These people are violent. These people want your money, and they don't care whether or not they take your life. So we start out with these two groups of very dangerous people delivering a very dangerous drug. This is not the only drug that they deal with, but we're going to focus on fentanyl today. I'll give you the 30,000 foot overview. It started in July of 24 with a fentanyl pill investigation. And between July 24th to January of 25, there were 8 kilos of fentanyl pills, or 80,000 pills, that came in from Phoenix. They came across the border in Mexico to Phoenix and ultimately to us. There were 6 operations during this total time with about 8 kilos of drugs that were seized. And then in April 28th of 25, we seized 4 more kilos, 40,000 more pills. It was delivered by Regina Headsmith of the Sinaloa cartel. So these are the 2 representatives we arrested from the Sinaloa cartel. These are the folks that were assigned to the Jalisco cartel in the pending operations. So we ultimately arrested her for delivering 4 kilos of fentanyl pills, and she delivered those to Lakeland, Florida. She was ultimately arrested on June the 19th in Maricopa, Arizona, Maricopa County, Arizona. And then there was Adrian Munga. He flew from Phoenix to Tampa to Bartow to pick up the cash for the 4,000 pills. He was arrested on June the 17th when he came a second time to bring us 4 kilos of. So between all of their transactions, we seized 35 pounds of fentanyl pills, or about 160,000 pills. Now, 1 pill is a hit, 1 pill. But understand, we had 160,000 hits. But that's not enough. The good dealers will tell you when you buy these fentanyl pills that, hey, if your body's not used to it, don't take more than a half pill, or we suggest you start with 1/4 of a pill because it'll kill you. Now, your drug dealer's telling you that you should start with 1/4 pill because if you're not an experienced doper, it'll kill you. Then move up to a half pill and then a full pill. These pills are pressed in Mexico. There's no quality control over this. So you don't know how powerful this pill is. But 160,000 pills. Now this Jalisco operation was totally separate. It was not pills. This Jalisco operation was all powder or bricked up. And it also came from traffickers out of Mexico, not related to the pill side. And the investigations started and proceeded when let me get past my notes here, because we took the Sinaloa group off, and then we started working on April 2025 on the powdered operation. And we worked from Alberto Diaz. He flew from California to Tampa to Bartow, and he brought drugs. He was a transport guy. Oh, by the way, he brought his daughter with him. The two of them were involved in transport. We learned that they transported for the Jalisco operation and also picked up money. We found out that Gloria Trujillo Duque, who's 44, from Atlanta, she brought 5 kilos that originated in Mexico. She came from Atlanta, and she was the money person for the cartel. Her job was to do the finance. Keep in mind that in addition to that, we had a cousin to Miguel who brought 5 kilos in. She's the only one that's on an immigration hold for violating her permit to come 25 miles inside the U.S. border. Somehow when she ended up here, we calculated she was just a little past her 25-mile limit. On April 28th, we got 5 kilos from Mexico. And how are they delivering it to us? In batteries. You see the pictures, and it's in the battery. That's right. So when you see someone on the side of the road maybe putting a new battery in their car, you think to yourself, they've got a bad battery. They had to get another one. Well, what we know is 5 kilos of fentanyl will go in this battery. Now, let me tell you this. The battery still works, okay? So they rigged the battery so that it cranks the car. It actually works. And then they just take the battery out, deliver the battery to you. You think it's a bad battery. They're going to take it in to exchange it. They put another battery in the car. Well, in fact, they've delivered 5 kilos. May 24th, we take a delivery in Auburndale. The Auburndale police were vital in this operation. And we seized another 29 pounds of pure fentanyl. Let me say that again. 29 pounds of pure fentanyl. So between the two operations and the different deliveries of the drugs, we looped all of these folks in as either couriers of the drugs or financiers to pick up the money or transport people. And we seized a total of 64 pounds. 64 pounds of fentanyl in these two operations. That's enough to overdose and kill 14.5 million people. Let me say that again. Our detectives and our agents from the federal, the state, and the local level potentially saved the lives of up to 14.5 million people. Or think of it this way. We seized enough drugs to overdose and kill everyone in the state of Ohio, or everyone in the state of Pennsylvania, or everyone in the state of Illinois, and have drugs to kill people left over. So when you look at these undercover agents that risk their lives in doing these types of operations, and then you see it as a risk to their life just to handle this stuff, let alone the violence and the guns and all the other issues they have to traverse in a high-level, large-scale investigation, you understand why our detectives and our agents from the state and the federal government are simply the very best. So will they ever get the appropriate thanks for saving lives? Absolutely not. But the reality is, while there's 340,000 people that died because these people were greedy and wanted money, and they didn't care that you died between 2018 and 2023, we know an immeasurable amount of people would have died with this 64 pounds of drugs that these people brought And they didn't care about you or your loved ones or your children, but we did. And that's why people are alive today, because of the work that our folks did.